Hi Countryside, it's Joe Smith, your General Manager, and I'm here today with Mike McDonald, one of our longtime residents here at Countryside and the chair of our Countryside 2.0 Renovation Committee. Well, Mike, thanks for sitting down with me today.
Sure, it's my pleasure, Joe.
We're kind of at the beginning of season here, a lot of residents back in town, and as you can imagine, there's a lot of questions about Countryside 2.0, the committee, some of the progress that you guys have made. So I thought this was a good opportunity to kind of chat about that.
Sure.
Update the community. So Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, because you've been knee deep in this industry for your entire career.
Pretty much my whole life, sure.
Yeah.
I began as a framing and finish carpenter at age 16 and worked with the tools pretty much my whole life. I still do it. I enjoy it in my retirement.
Yeah.
Got my architecture license in '85 and did a lot of commercial work, including here in Florida. But worked on every scale project, over $100 million projects.
Wow.
All different building types. I've got 5 skyscrapers in Tampa that I did in my early decades. So got a good mind for problem solving.
Yeah.
And the last 20 years, I was one of the owners of a large construction company in Connecticut. We were a construction manager. Did a little bit of GC work, but mostly CM work. And that's got a parallel to this project. We were always hired early on at the same time as the architecture and engineering team. We'd advise the team, the owner and the designers, on the budget of the project and the schedule of the project all the way through the design phase. That way, when we went out to bid for the trade work, we took competitive lowest responsible bidder, but we already had predicted the results. So that process lets you adjust to the marketplace as the design goes along. In our case, we have almost a year of design. We're coming up on the first phase, and we'll touch on that.
Yeah.
And we'll be doing a budget check.
Yeah.
So we've hired a CM, and we'll get into all of that.
Well, I mean, as far as your experience, there's certainly no one more qualified to lead this. And I know a lot of the residents that have heard your updates over the summer have been really impressed. Good. And the rest of the committee as well. I think we put together a really good group of residents that have their areas of expertise with construction. So, I mean, you guys have been off to a great start.
Yeah, really stacked on the committee. We have a licensed electrician, Sal Grillo. We have a licensed plumber, pipe fitter, Dan O'Keefe. John Viviani works for Cisco. He builds data centers for computer labs. Jerry Scrancy, Dan Kramer, and 2 of our holdovers from the Master Plan Committee, John Rogozinski, who built hundreds of Dunkin' Donuts all over the country, and Tom Maley, who was in education and built some big school projects. Probably leaving someone out there, but Sergio DeSimone spent 50 years in construction. We're really stacked with talent, with experience. Most of those folks will be here during construction, and I'm going to really rely on them when we get out in the field to check that the progress is good and we're paying for the work that we should be getting. So,
and the other thing too is we've got every area of Countryside represented on that committee too. I know that was important to the board.
That was big for the board, I think, when they took a couple dozen applicants, I think, and a lot of qualified folks, and we're really happy with the group we have. We've been meeting for about 20 weeks now. Our 10th meeting will be next Friday. We meet twice a month, first and third Fridays. And we've got a format. We keep minutes. Everything's posted on the website.
That's right.
And it's there's a cumulative report that we do at the end of every month for the board, and then when they accept it at their meeting, it goes to the website. So everyone in the club can see where the budget is, where the schedule is, the minutes of our meetings.
That's right.
Any important milestones are in the monthly report.
And we'll include a link to that page on the website along with this video. But yeah, all that information is out there, and you guys are doing a good job keeping it up to date.
So where we are today, the design contract is 5 phases. 3 phases of drawing and writing specifications, a phase to bid the work, and then the oversight of construction. So we're nearing the end of our first phase, schematic design. It's about 20% of the work. Tomorrow we're going to have a meeting up with the architect's office with his engineers. We're going to talk about what's in that final package for the SD. That's an important milestone for our construction manager. I should say our architect is Humphrey Roselle, Dave Humphrey. Most have met him. Our CM is Heatherwood Construction. They'll be taking that package and doing a thorough budget analysis, putting their first cut at the schedule, and I'll give you a snapshot of that in a second. But that's our first real hard look at the master plan as it evolved into this real design. Reflects the marketplace for the time that we're going to be going to bid and bidding. So on the schedule, we'll be completing the first 3 phases of design by next June, in time to get our permits, going out to bid in July of 2023, looking for a groundbreaking in mid-August of next year.
Yeah.
So again, with the construction management team from Heatherwood, we'll be able to take the pulse of the project as it goes along. We don't want the designer to get out in front of us too far, put some things on the paper that we can't afford or that weren't in the vision that the community accepted. So it's a really solid approach to managing the project. So you're always, you get a little in front with the design, everybody takes a look at it, evaluates it. If we have to pull back a little bit, we can do it.
Right. It almost sounds like it allows us to react quicker to market conditions and whatnot.
Correct. Yep. The older model of construction that many people are familiar with is general contracting, that the architect draws the entire project up without interruption, you put it out to the open market and you bid. It's like buying a lottery ticket, honestly, because you don't know where you're going to be.
Right.
And we'll be bidding about 9 months from now. So nobody can sit here today and say, oh, the hurricane is going to have this impact. Inflation is going to have that impact. It's too far out in the future.
Right.
So the step-by-step process of design, evaluate, cost estimate, continue design, another cycle, that's how you manage a project effectively so that nothing gets off the rails and you're not in for a big surprise next year.
So speaking of surprises, can you talk a little bit about if at some point within that process we realize we need to scale something back or pull back on a line item? Like how does that work and what may or may not occur?
So we have the 3 phases of design: schematic design, design development, and construction documents. So it's 20%, 40%, and 80% complete. We'll be doing budget evaluations at each of those 3 points. So in early November will be the first one, a couple of months after that, and about 4 months after that.
Okay.
So at each of those points, we can see what's going on, the cost of materials, the shortage of any materials, a labor issue that might arise in the marketplace. We can then adjust our plan accordingly. Maybe we make something a little bit smaller, 10% less seating in the dining room, or 5% less swimming pool, or 1 less pickleball, whatever we need to do, we're equipped to do it.
Right.
Again, we're not going to have to make a last minute dramatic cutting of this project. We can predict from those evaluation points, where's the project heading, what are we projecting for bid results, and adjust our package accordingly. There's other tools we'll use. We'll have bid alternates. We'll do about 10 alternate bids that'll be added additional price. Maybe it's an upgrade to some furniture. Maybe it's a 5th pickleball court. I'm not predicting exactly, but we'll have certain items within. I'll think of a good one right now. A generator was mentioned. Chuck Healy on the board asked me after the hurricane, wouldn't it be good if we had a generator in the project? Would you look into that? So I took a quick look at our budget from the master plan. No, we never called for a generator.
Right.
And we know when you have a power outage for, say, a week, people just don't report to work here. They work from home, however it can be reacted to. But it would be nice to save the food in the freezer. Nice to keep some air conditioning on to keep any mold out of the buildings. So we'll do a shorthand design for a generator. We'll discuss with you and your team how much of this building load do we put on the generator. We don't need a generator the size of a semi-trailer out there to keep everything up and running. It's not required, but you have some critical systems, so we would size that generator appropriately. We put that out as an add alternate bid. So if everything's on budget or under budget when bids come in, we can elect to pull the trigger on that generator. So I would say maybe that's a $50,000 to $100,000 expenditure within our contingency funds. We have room for that today, but let's see where we are next July when bids come in, and see if we can do that as an add-on. So it's not essential to delivering the vision that the master plan included, but it sure be a nice addition to your infrastructure.
Process allows you to be fluid through the whole. And I was just thinking that we came in, I think, about $100,000 under the architect contract that was budgeted.
We did.
And we had some savings elsewhere too. Maybe in the construction manager.
We did. cut some of the costs from the proposal that the construction
That's
manager
right.
had, and that was I don't remember the quantity. I'm going to say it was about $75,000 to $100,000.
That's right.
That was in manpower they were projecting for the construction
Right,
phase.
yeah.
And we basically said, we don't think we need those extra personnel, but we can evaluate it later.
Yeah.
So for initially, their contract won't include those costs.
Right.
So that's a savings. I'm not taking that to the bank yet.
Right.
We may find that the extras, maybe there were 3 extra bodies on their team.
Yeah.
We may find one of those people makes our project go quicker.
Yeah.
Saves us some money, makes things more efficient.
Right.
So we can elect to deal with it. But
Right.
from the fee proposals we accepted, we did take a cut there.
Well, we have some fluidity in the contingency when we
Correct.
find some savings through
Yep,
the project and the process.
So
that's-
I've been part of a number of presentations. We discussed
Mm-hmm.
our contingencies. All the construction estimates have 10% contingency built into them as a line item. We have an owner's contingency that started at $1 million. It's about $1,850,000 right now.
Okay.
Reflecting the design contract savings. So we're in a solid position with reserve funds. Some of that 10% in the cost estimate will be blended into the project as each phase goes along. We want to leave about 3% with the contractor. With the day we start construction, we'd like that 10% to be 3% as a reserve for them, because they're going to guarantee this price. The other nice thing about a construction manager, they're going to collect the lowest of all the bids in the trades, 25 to 30 trades, add their costs for management, and put the contingency in that they need. And then they're going to guarantee that. So if they burn through that contingency and there's still cost on those
Yeah.
plans that we're owed, now it's coming out of their pocket.
It's on them.
Right.
That's one of the questions I get is the $14 million budget set in stone? And we continue to say, yes, it is.
It has to be.
And-
You can't launch a capital project of this scale and not have the
Yeah.
tools you need to adjust to things.
Yeah.
Again, in the general contractor model, it's all in. You know, you put everything out there. They give you one number. There's no breakdown, no pieces, parts to that number. It's like, here's your $12 million bid, take it or leave it. With the CM model, it's an open book process. We'll have, say, 25 subcontractor bids. We'll know who each trade is. We'll know that piece of it. The billing from Heatherwood in construction will probably be 50 pages long, single
Wow,
spaced,
yeah.
because each trade is going to bid, they're going to bill their labor hours in different parts of the project, all their materials. So we'll be able to accurately check their progress against their billing.
Excellent.
And again, with the contingency in reserve, we can adjust as things go along. There's always risk in construction.
Sure.
There's going to be some unforeseen things. We're taking every measure we can to
Yeah.
avoid surprises, but it's just the nature, especially an older building like this, you open up walls, things are found.
Find some
So
surprises.
that's the CM 3%. That's supposed to cover what they couldn't reasonably anticipate from
Gotcha.
the plans.
Gotcha.
So anyway, we think the project is well structured. I think the process is solid and should let us, I firmly believe, will let us finish on or under budget.
That'd be great. On the topic of unforeseen occurrences, we had a hurricane a few weeks ago.
Sure.
Had a number of residents, primarily who are coming down from up north, say, "Oh, did it affect this at all? The material availability or cost or whatnot?" I know you've spoken to a construction manager on the project and the timeline.
Sure.
Can you share a little bit about?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I talked to Walter Crawford's the president of Heatherwood, our CM, and he's personally involved in the project. He said currently things are a little crazy in the market because obviously there's a scramble for roofing products and scramble for drywall. But again, his couple of points. We're bidding in 9 months, so the things going on now will settle down. And I had personal experience. I was at Home Depot a couple weeks ago. A guy walked in with his crew and 5 trucks. He bought every sheet of drywall in the whole building. I was going in there for one piece of drywall. He took out 500 sheets of drywall. Within a week, there were mountains of drywall back at Home Depot under the canopy in the building. So a store like that, they diverted resources and materials from other stores that didn't have the problems we did, and they brought it down. So 9 months from now, when we're bidding our project, there should be no direct impact from the storm.
Yeah.
And yes, people will still be getting their roofs repaired. There'll be a lag in available labor versus all the homes. I think I heard 60,000 homes are impacted most directly. And I know Irma was no better, maybe worse, more widespread. So there should be, other than the immediate craziness, no real impact to our project because we're bidding so far out. Secondarily, the nature of some of the damage, the small buildings at Fort Myers Beach and in the islands, they're small wood frame construction. That's not what we're building. We're building steel, concrete blocks, stucco, commercial level construction. I didn't see any big commercial buildings have significant damage. Yes, there's a glass shortage in the industry. There has been for a couple of years, partly because of the COVID shutdowns. And there's only a few big glass factories in our country that furnish all the window glass. They had a disruption of workforce. That'll work its way through the system.
Yeah.
The third thing that Heatherwood indicated is there is a recession going on. It's a mild one, depending who you're talking to. It's not directly felt across the board, but Heatherwood is seeing it in their future work bookings. Less between interest rates rising and a general malaise in the economy, a lot of their clients are not doing work that was on their schedule to perform. So they're postponing, whether it's home builders, which they do a lot of work, all the contractors here do a lot of work in condos, apartments, and residences. That market is slowing with the interest rates increase. So they said generally that's favorable to our project to have an economic slowdown. It means some of the contractors won't have as much backlog to be comfortable with. They'll have to sharpen their pencil at bid time.
Yeah.
So again, 9 months out, projecting a year after that of construction. Again, we're not predicting what it'll be, but right now we don't see any dark clouds on the horizon.
Well, that's good. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like the timing of our project might be ideal based on what we're seeing in the future.
I think it is.
possibly.
Even commercial lending is down as rates rise and mergers and acquisitions slow down. So generally, though, we're a solid customer. We have money in the bank. We have members ready to spend their hard-earned money on this project. There aren't as many projects out there that are really teed up to go like a sure thing that we are. So while I don't want to see a national slowdown in our economy, it does usually favor those folks that are ready to move ahead on a project. You can blunt the force of the inflation and supply chain by being the customer that's ready to pay. So overall, they're not forecasting any problems for us. Being so far out and again getting past some of the immediate issues of folks trying to rebuild their homes.
Yeah. So switching gears a little bit, we've had some contractors out on site recently, and I've had some residents ask about all the markings on the brick, and we had two engineering firms, I suppose, come out and do some work. So what was that all about?
So the design team is not responsible for discovering things about our property that only we know about, and the property that we're in control of, we own it. So we've retained, as is normal, 2 consulting disciplines to do some investigative work in areas that you can't see things, basically below the ground. So a geotechnical engineer was hired to drill 4 borings at the locations of our additions. They drill down about 50 feet. They use a hollow tube drill bit, and they can pull it up at any point, and they do appear every 10 feet or so. And they take a cross section of the soil that accumulates inside the drill bit. If anyone was here, they actually pound it with a hammer, pneumatic hammer, and they count how many blows it takes to go how far down into the ground. So that gives them an indication of the bearing capacity. How firm is the ground to support the weight of a building? And then the cross-section gives them a look at what's in there. In particular, you find the water table at some point when that sandy column becomes a wet sandy column. And is there any clay in there, any rock? So the geotechnical investigation answers the questions that our structural engineer needs to know before he designs the foundations of the building. So that's part of that due diligence of a concealed condition, what's under the ground. The second firm was a ground penetrating radar company. They helped locate all the buried wires and pipes all around our many buildings. We need to know which of our buildings are dependent on the others for their services. For instance, the wellness center gets its water from the main building. When we close the main building to renovate, the wellness center has to stay up and running. So we know we're going to have to put in a new water line to that building. The GPR was able to locate those lines based on where service entry points are in the building, where the meters are, and the actual track of that piping by taking basically looks like a lawnmower, and they push it around and it shows them what's in the ground and how deep it is and so forth. So again, solving the mystery of what's under that ground before we start digging for additions. We'll know which utilities we're going to disrupt, which ones have to be reset. So it's another piece of the due diligence that gives the design team, in this case our civil engineer and our electrical and plumbing engineers, they'll know which buildings are served from which directions, and if any of those lines are in the way of new construction, which lines can we tap or divert. So each building, the cart barn, pro shop, and wellness center that need to function fully when the clubhouse is closed for renovation, that data will be entered on the survey. The contractors will have it when they bid, and once the machinery comes out to dig, we're not going to be surprised by, we cut the water line off to the wellness center. Who knew that was there? Well, we did because we spent the time. Small dollars, honestly, I think $5,000, I think, to find out where everything is. So it's mapped. I haven't deciphered it yet. They haven't really issued the full report. But so those two contractors help reveal what's under the ground, so that we're not caught unawares. We know these things are out there. It's just smarter to know exactly where they are. How deep are they? And,
it's probably, I mean, it's more budget friendly to do the investigative work up front than deal with a surprise later on. So.
And we might still find an internet line or something that didn't show up on the radar because there was a little teeny tiny wire. We may yet have something we didn't see, or a big rock the size of a Volkswagen. Those things can happen. We drilled a 2-inch hole where one addition's going to go in an area that's several thousand square feet. So we might have just missed that big rock. So we'll still encounter those kind of things. But shame on us for not hiring the right kind of specialty contractors to do that investigation, to give us the best shot at success.
In your opinion, summing all that up, which I mean, great information. Are you comfortable with where we are today and the progress that's been completed in terms of the projected timeline? I mean, are we where we should be?
I am. We had, you and I joined the architect up at their office a few weeks ago. I wanted that technical team to sit around the table together because it represents several different companies. Make sure the left hand knows what the right hand's doing. And we did a risk assessment. We said, what about this? What about that? Who's working on this? So I get a good feel when I sit around the table in the office of the design team. And I know they're communicating amongst each other. I know the issues important to our club are being carried through to be solved. So I'm quite comfortable with the level of design progress, which we hope to show at the town hall upcoming.
That's right.
I'm confident we have a good solid team across the board, and they're doing the job that we're hiring them to do. And again, that's the best job we can do, is hire the best people and stay on top of them, make sure they're doing the job.
Excellent.
We did lose about 10 days during the hurricane. The architect's office and our CM's office was out of power, internet, and email for about a week to a week and a half. So we're going to add 10 days to our schedule. So instead of taking bids in early July, we'll probably take bids a week or so later than that. We still would look to be breaking ground in August of next year. But that's the only hiccup schedule-wise we have. A big risk factor for us was permitting, and we've heard this from folks that know about the county. It's a thorough process. There's a solid set of building codes, et cetera, but it's an involved process. They review your plans when you submit them for building permit. They may not accept them after that review. They might tell you, oh, here's all the shortfalls in your plans. So we spend an inordinate amount of time with our civil engineer, who takes the lead on the land use planning side, the zoning, the wetlands, and all that. So when the SD is finished, we're going to pass that footprint of the new building off to the civil engineer. That starts their process of 8 weeks to get their design complete for everything outside the main building, all the site improvements. Then they can submit, and that starts a 4 to 5 month land use permit planning process. So again, we ascertain what those dates are, how long is the county taking to review plans. 4 to 5 months, that's a lot of time. So we said, all right, what's the most important set of plans we need? It's the civil engineer work. So he'll be ready in 2 months from November 1st, plus or minus. We'll get that permit process started. We don't have any extraordinary site work going on. We're building 4 pickleball courts on top of a parking lot. We're building a pool and patios. Not really earth-shaking as far as the code goes or any zoning issues. We're expanding our parking. So the county will look at those things that they're looking at, that they that they focus on. But none of that is really out-of-the-box improvements. It's more the process, how much time they're going to have those plans over in their building. So again, we've added lines to our schedule to make sure that our design is ready. We can get those permits applied for. The civil engineer can monitor and work with the county to make sure that they're getting their reviews done. So we should get out of that process in time for our building permit application next June, July.
Okay.
So that was a key discovery. We all knew working with the county can be difficult, so we said, well, what does that really mean? The engineer says 4 to 5 months in plan review. Like, okay, let's build that into the schedule. Who needs to be done with what, so we can get those permits applied for. So we feel, again, that we've taken a look at the risky things. What's under the ground we can't see. What's the county going to do that we can't control? And made sure that our team is responding and preparing the work product that needs to be presented.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent. Anything else from the committee that you think is important to get out at this point?
Well, it'd be nice to meet the committee. All of our meetings,
you've been virtual.
We've been virtual for quite a while. I know John Viviani popped his head in, Dan Kramer, Larry O'Keefe was here. So I've met a couple of them now personally. John Rogo and Tom Maley have just arrived. So it's good to see some of our committee members in the flesh, and looking forward to having some meetings around a table instead of looking at the Hollywood squares. I expect everyone should be here shortly, and that'll be good. Otherwise, it's just an enjoyable process. There's some work involved, but I'm happy to volunteer, and I know our committee members are.
Well, I mean, you've got the right group of people, and I mean, you in particular, and the committee as a whole, have been helping me tremendously with this. So, I greatly appreciate that. I know the community does also.
Right.
So.
Well, we want to succeed. We plan to succeed. So we'll draw on the resources we need. It's great to have your input, and there'll some more information to come as far as getting down to the details of the kitchen design and some of the operational aspects of how the dining rooms and inside and out will work. And so it's key to have you and Larry Franzen from the board on the committee, so we're always touching base with operations side. And we can't just do our thing in a vacuum and then drop this new project out there. So far I'm pleased that everyone's participating, getting the info we need from them. And if you don't ask the question, you don't you don't get an answer. So it's that's really what it's a discovery process. Always assessing what don't we know, what's going to bite us in the butt later, so that you take that risk down to an acceptable level, and hopefully your contingency covers the piece you couldn't nail down.
It sounds like we're in good shape there. So
I'm very confident we're on a good track. I'm excited by the design that's coming on to Dave's boards, and look forward to getting some of that out there.
Excellent. Well, you communicate regularly to the board. And as a reminder, monthly board meetings are open to the community, and you've been on the agenda every month, so that's an opportunity. I know you had a great session at the most recent President's Council meeting, and I think you're planning on continuing those.
Sure. I don't know the frequency, but
they're monthly through April. But again, Countryside, feel free to reach out to your association president, because they're getting the information as well. You can expect more video communication as we go through season. I'd like to get some of the other committee members on camera and and
there's some characters in that group.
Their backgrounds,
great people, great experience, life experience, and so I think that'll be enjoyable.
Yeah, absolutely. And then lastly, you mentioned the town hall. So our November town hall is scheduled for the 14th, 4 o'clock here at the clubhouse. That is just a general open forum. We do 3 of those a year: November, January, and April, beginning at 4 p.m. in the clubhouse main dining room. As we get closer to the 14th, we'll provide some reminders. And once again, keep an eye on your emails for future updates. We appreciate you all watching these videos, and we hope to see you around the club real soon. Thank you.